Hi, and welcome to a special election edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Tuesday, October 4th, exactly 5 weeks before the November 8th election. And I'm very pleased to welcome in Gwyn Lurie, editor-in-chief of the Montecito Journal, with whom Newsmakers is collaborating on a series of online election forums focused on education in our community. Welcome, Gwyn.
Thank you.
Today, we're going to be speaking with candidates for 2 seats on the Cold Springs School District in Montecito, which, although one of the smaller districts in our area, has been a large hotbed of controversy in recent times. In alphabetical order and with the short descriptors that appear on the ballot, they are Elke Kane,
Hello.
attorney parent, incumbent Michael Marino,
Hi there.
incumbent Jennifer Miller,
Hello.
and Erica Kellis is also on the ballot, but has not joined us yet. She's been invited. So thank you all for taking the time out of your schedules to speak with us. The format's pretty informal. We like to make it as conversational as possible. We'll rotate questions between candidates and you each have about a minute to answer. And at the end of the program, we'll try to save time so you can have a 1-minute closing statement. With that, Gwyn, you got the first question.
Thank you, Jerry. So, you know, this is an easy softball question. None of them are gotcha questions, but this is really just, can you, starting with Elke, can you introduce yourself? Tell us why you're running to be a member, why you're opening yourself up to the punishment of being a local school board member.
Sure.
And although it is a very important service, and if you have a particular issue or issues that you are especially interested in, include those in your answers.
I will do the best I can. So I'm a child of Mexican immigrants. Spanish was my first language, and I attended public school in the 80s. My experience was far from good, but it did lead me to really care and advocate for all students and gave me a passion about education. I'm an attorney by day. I volunteer the time that I can to education, so to Cold Spring, but also Santa Barbara Education Foundation and other nonprofits that help the students in Santa Barbara. I have 2 children that currently attend Cold Spring, and I want to ensure that the school district continues to be responsive to the values and the beliefs, as well as the priorities of this particular community. And I feel I'm a good replacement for the current outgoing board member. There's actually 3 seats open. So it's the 2, Mike and Jen, who are incumbents and running again. And then there's 1 outgoing board member, Mr. Schiller. And I think I'm a good, clear communicator. I like to find creative and collaborative solutions to unique problems. I'm familiar with the current and the prospective board members, as well as the district staff. So I think I'd be an asset to the role. And I think I would be maybe not a good replacement, but Eric will be missed. But I think I would fill that role well.
All right. Again,
Can I just follow up one thing, Jerry? I'm just curious, what are, as you see them, the values of this community?
Well, it depends on when and who you ask, but I think generally,
because you just said you want to represent the values.
I do, and I would like to really know what other community members want, and I want to be that person who they feel comfortable talking to and can be that representative. The way I currently see it, people really value Cold Spring as a community hub, as a center that they can go and appreciate the space. It functions as almost like a dog park in the evenings. Currently, a lot of community members do go and use the playground, even non-students. It really, during all of the crisis and the mud flow, it operated as a community center as well. So it's really kind of the heart of our little area. And I think that's a major priority and value that the larger community has. Obviously, the parents, their main focus is always going to be the students and the children that attend the school. And so that should really be the primary focus of any school district, especially this one. But both of those are very important.
Thank you very much. Michael.
Yes. So I moved here with my family roughly, I guess, 7 years ago. And right when we moved here, I didn't know much about Cold Spring, to be honest, when we moved here. I'm from New York, and It was chaos, to be honest. I don't want to put anyone down. I know there was a lot going on, but the old principal superintendent allowed the school to run over budget, parents to run amok. No one was happy. And I was sort of shocked that I moved into this chaos. I am not a overly wealthy man, so I couldn't donate my money to fix the problem, but I have time. I felt plugged in, so I volunteered to be on the site council. And as I was learning to write the LCAP, I started getting interested in the school. I got to meet Dr. Alzina. I got to meet the teachers. I got to see the inner workings, and I realized that, okay, maybe I can't give tons of money, but I can give my time. I can give my effort. And in the 4 years I've been on the board, we've gone from running in deficit spending to being at or under budget. We've grown our reserves over $1 million.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Gwyn.
Jennifer.
Sorry.
There you go.
I have a little one at home today, so I was trying to mute it so you didn't have to listen to him make his lunch. But so I have served on the Cold Spring School Board for 8 years now, and I'm running for a third term because I still have a passion for the outstanding education that Cold Spring School provides its students. I have 2 children that are graduates of Cold Spring. They're now at the Santa Barbara High School, and I have 1 child still in Cold Spring. And I can see the importance of the long-lasting effects of the solid foundation that Cold Spring provides. My 2 kids that are in high school, their best friends are still all Cold Spring kids. They still come to Cold Spring to play basketball. They volunteer at the Cold Spring school. Like, Cold Spring is part of our family and the community. And I think it's so important. And I wanted to be a part of that still. I believe that the foundation that Cold Spring provides is not just academic, but also social. And I'd like to continue to support the administration in our community with the new and exciting upcoming projects that are now under development.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess, Gwyn, the next question goes to Michael, huh? He goes first now?
Erica starts the next question.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Erica,
Erica.
but
In
Erica,
absentia. You're right, Michael. Sorry.
Erica's not here. Okay.
Sorry.
Elsie, thank you for correcting me. I misspoke. There are 3 seats, so we should be clear about that. So, Michael, what are could you name the 2 key strengths of the district, and also what do you think the 2 biggest challenges the district faces are?
Well, the strengths are pretty obvious. Our teachers are second to none. And I'm not just saying that. Every single teacher is better than the last. I've had almost all of them through my 3 kids that have cycled through the school. And on top of the teachers, our administration is the other strength. Dr. Alzina, Mr. Calderon, the rest of the business office, and this office staff, they are dedicated. They know every single child, their needs, and how to provide for them. And our job as board members is quite simple. It's giving the tools to the people who are in front of the children. As far as the weaknesses, I mean, money. we need money, as much of it as possible. And unfortunately, while as a basic aid district, we are on a per student basis quite well off compared to some of our neighboring districts. The truth is that the state requires universal TK, yet didn't provide any extra funding for us. The state requires meals, yet we didn't even have a kitchen on campus, and now we have to spend money. So the answer in short is money.
All right. Thank you. Jennifer.
Next, yeah.
Hi, okay, so I'm looking at the district as from the children's perspective, and I think our strengths are 1, our small classroom size, 2, having classroom aides, 3, having our specialist programs, which is art, music, STEAM, and gardening now. And then 4, our teachers use a collaborative approach to teaching a subject. So you don't just learn math in math class, you also learn it in art, you learn it in PE, you learn it in music and STEAM. So that's why our kids are really developing well academically, is because of this cross collaboration that's occurring between the different classrooms. As far as, and then of course, all of that is because we have great teachers and because we have great administration and everything else, like it's all wrapped up in a bow. District weakness, I think areas of improvement, what may be a weakness today might be a strength tomorrow, but historically the district has had difficulties getting non-parent community support for our projects, specifically our bond measures. And this has led us to running out of space for our classrooms and also our dilapidated portable buildings.
All right, thank you. And Ilke?
I'm going to largely agree with Jen and Mike on everything they've said. I think also the one of the strengths, the high student achievement, despite all of the unprecedented events that have happened, the district's ability to really pivot and implement those changes quickly in order to meet the needs of the students are phenomenal. And it's largely, in part, at least, due to Dr. Elzina's relentless advocacy for small school districts. I think she's an amazing advocate. In addition to everything Jen and Mike have already said, weaknesses and challenges. Similarly, funding, I think the aging infrastructure at Cold Spring is a problem. Improvements are really needed in order to provide sufficient facilities considering the growth in student population, but also to renovate the school to meet safety and facility improvements. Capital improvements are typically funded by bonds, which didn't pass. And so funding is going to be the weakness along Mike and Jennifer. I'm mirroring their answers in a way.
All right, thank you. And by the way, when I hold up my hand, I'm just giving you, it's 10-second whip off there. We've got about 10 seconds left.
Thank
Gwyn?
you.
The next, who is the?
Jennifer starts. Jennifer's first.
I'm sorry, yeah. Michael, you're next.
No, Michael just got the first question. Now Jennifer. Michael addressed this question.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Elke. And then Michael. No, Michael, you addressed this question?
You have
Yeah,
it.
it wasn't a very memorable answer, I suppose.
I'm so sorry. I'm so
New
sorry. I
question.
messed up
New
because I
question.
changed the order because we're missing one person. So it just is screwed for you.
New question.
Okay, my turn. On the website for Cold Springs, it says the number one goal for Cold Springs School District is all students will participate in a collaborative and integrated project-based approach to learning. What is an integrated project-based approach to learning? And do you support this as a key goal for Cold Springs School District? Elke.
I'll go first. Yes, I think it's an amazing goal. The way I see it is all of the regular teachers as well as the specialists, so STEAM, art, music, PE, gardening, they all work in conjunction and in collaboration to teach a concept to the students. So rather than just rote memorization of worksheets and tables and whatever they need to learn in terms of the content, it's how they're receiving the content, and it's in a way that really becomes ingrained in them and becomes more memorable and really assists the students in understanding conceptually what they're learning. So I do think that it is very important to use that approach, and I approve of the goal, I suppose.
Okay. Michael.
Yes, you're referring to our LCAP goal, our first LCAP goal, one of several. And that LCAP was created by the administrations with input from every faculty member, the community, the LCAP committee, the board eventually vote on it. So as far as the goal goes, yeah, I agree with it. It's everybody agrees with it. There's been a tremendous amount of input on these goals. And as far as what project-based learning is, as Elke pointed out, it's easy to memorize a fact, spit back the date of this war happened then, or this phone is this. But what does that tell you? I mean, we can Google anything. And I think the most important thing, it's not knowing what the answer is, but how to find it. So when you are learning in a STEAM class, or when you learn in math class, geometry, and you go into STEAM, and then you use that to build an instrument, and you go into music to play that instrument, you're learning more than just a fact or memorization. You're learning how to learn, how to love learning. And there's something for everybody. So I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with the goal one.
Okay.
And Jennifer.
Jennifer.
So I agree with Elke and Mike, and I agree with this goal. As a parent of children, 3 different kids, and each one has different learning abilities, like as far as what resonates with them. Some kids learn easier just by memorization. Some kids learn easier by actually handling something in their hands and like using models. And when you have this cross-collaborative approach where different classrooms are teaching the same topic, they really have an opportunity to learn it in multiple ways. And eventually it's going to resonate with their learning style. So I agree with this because I feel it reaches kids of all different learning types and skills.
All right, thank you.
So I'm gonna kind of move around my next question a little, Jerry, because I think everyone sort of spoke to the economic, the need for money at the school district, and that is something that, you know, they're sort of trying to figure out in terms of, you know, their facilities, et cetera. So, you know, I'd like to know, what are your thoughts about a public school district raising money through fundraising? And let's start with Elke.
I think.
I'm sorry, let's start with Michael.
Michael, yeah.
Yeah, Michael.
Sure. You know, I don't like asking for money. I don't think anybody does. I don't think our superintendent and principal, that should be her primary job, is asking for money. Thankfully, we have the Cold Spring School Foundation, which is really dedicated to raising cash. They actually just finished their fall fundraiser with over $160,000 raised for the school. We're very fortunate to have them and some very generous people in our community. But as far as fundraising goes, I wish that the state, local, federal governments would step up and provide the adequate funding so we didn't have to turn to parents. I'm just so fortunate that we have.
But you think that it's a legitimate way, if you can't, for example, get a bond passed, you think it's a legitimate way to pay for the facilities and other needs the school has?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that we have needs, and it takes money to pay those needs. And we ask the parents and the community every year what their priorities are. And to fulfill what their priorities are, either, you know, we need more money or we need to make cuts. We've been told that cuts are unacceptable. And we're fortunate enough that the parent community has stepped up to, you know, bridge the gap between what we have and what they demand.
Great, thank you. Jennifer.
I agree with Mike completely. You know, the bond wasn't passed. We have these problems. Our kids are in the dilapidated portable. We had kids in a library. Like, we need to get some more space. And thankfully, we've been able to save money over time with hopes of using it to maintain our buildings or purchase new things. And so we have a lot of it already saved, and we're going to get the rest of it from parent involvement and community support. I don't think we're the only school. Most schools, I think the public schools in town do go to their community to try to get funding for specialist programs and such. Like, each of the public schools do internal fundraising. But unfortunately, we're one of the few schools that had to do it for a building, right? Usually the actual capital buildings are done by bond, but in this case, it just isn't happening.
Elke, you'd be a new, it's your turn to answer the question, but you would be a new member of the board. Have you personally reviewed the budget for the Cold Springs School District? And do you think it's healthy, and do you approve of raising funds to fill in some of the holes?
Yes-ish. So I am one of the few community members, or the only, depending on any given board meeting, that actually attends. And the CBO does put up the budget on a big screen and goes through the presentation. Truthfully, I've not gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, but I feel pretty confident in the questions that are asked during the board meetings by the board members, that those financials are being looked at incredibly thoroughly. Mr. Calderon does a good job of answering those questions. They often go back and forth to really go through it and make sure everybody understands what those financials mean, if any modifications need to be made. So I do trust that that budget is healthy, and that they've been running that they've been spending within their budget allotment. Ultimately, the school budget is enough for all of the necessary expenditures. Unfortunately, the items that all parents, really all of them, have expressed year over year, they want to see those small class sizes, the specialists, the TAs, those are not covered by the funding, and they're all discretionary. So the fundraising is needed to meet those goals. Personally, I'd like to see a stronger push for solicitations of those donations from the broader community, as opposed to just from the parents. I've served on the board, the Cold Spring School Foundation board, for a number of years. I know it's a work in progress, but at some point I would like to see that be more than just on the shoulders of the parents.
Thank you, Elke. Yeah, I'm still hung up. Elke just coined a great new phrase for answering in a debate. Yes, yes-ish. I like that. Good, good. I'm gonna remember that one. All right, who's first? Jennifer's first? I think?
Jennifer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go out of order too then, Gwen. On the website, goal number 2 for the district is students, parents, and the community are actively engaged in the decision-making process. So here's a 2-part question. Do you feel the Cold Spring School District has successfully engaged the larger community about facilities, projects, and issues? And what do you think the board's role ought to be in communicating to the larger community? Jennifer?
Well, thanks. So we've been trying to increase our communication for years. Like when I first got on the board 8 years ago, we were already having discussions about how we're going to increase the community involved or increase our communication with non-parents, right? Like the rest of the community. So it's been a work in progress. I think we've tried and sometimes we miss and sometimes it doesn't work the way we hope to. So it's a work in progress. One of our biggest obstacles is finding the right medium or channel to reach the people. Our board meetings are open to the public, but we get very little attendance, right? Like that's the easiest place to learn, but people don't come. But our minutes are now online and really easy to access. 6 years ago, we started with board office hours where we were available 1 hour per week. I think it was 1 hour per week, it might be 1 hour per month at a certain designated time with 2 board members, and people just didn't come. It just wasn't attended. So we stopped that after a couple of years. Now the superintendent holds our own principal's coffee, and people are seeming to go to that. So we've been working, we've had state of the school events, which are also lightly attended. More recently, our board president, Mr. Marino, has been writing board news and our weekly newsletter to families to try to, and there's some non-families that also anyone can be on our parent square. Like if you, any community member could join our parent square to get those emails as well. So we're trying, we just haven't figured out the best way.
All right.
Michael, you're welcome to publish your newsletter, push it out through us too, if you want.
That'd be terrific. Yeah, I mean, I'll answer the question, when it's my turn. I don't know, is it my turn now?
It's Elke's turn.
I think it's Elke's turn.
I don't have much to add. I think there's also a marquee in the front that is regularly updated with meeting times. So anyone who's not on the internet but drives by would see the events that are happening as well as the meetings. I know Dr. Alzina does coffee. There's also school events that are pushed out to let the community know so that people can attend. There's the app and the website have been updated. I find them very informative. The email addresses for all the board members are listed. In my experience, they've always been very responsive, as has the administration. I don't think, given today's technology, that flyers are really a cost-effective way to communicate information. I appreciate that the district does send out a few a year, but I think more than that would become an unnecessary expenditure, especially given budget issues. So I think really more interaction with the community. That it's hard when it's coming one way, when the board is constantly trying to reach the community, but the community either isn't receiving it or doesn't seem to care much. It's difficult to know whether they are actually getting the right communication. I saw your hand, Jerry. Thank you. I'll pass to Mike.
The short answer to your question is no, I'm not satisfied with our communication. The reality is we try, as Jen has pointed out, Elke mentioned as well, that we hosted over once a week last year some sort of community forum, including our boards, the principals' coffees. We had specific get-togethers designed to engage the community. And yet it's the same people over and over again. And I struggle with personally, I appreciate the effort that our superintendent principals putting in, that our board members are putting in, that our community is putting in, yet we're not reaching the other 80-something% of the community that doesn't have children at the school. We tried the newsletters. I mean, I respond to every single email, and when you know this, because a lot of them copy you on their emails to me. I mean, I respond to every single one I get. I try my best to engage and listen, and we do listen, even though the people who have the biggest problems with us, we take their criticisms into account and we try and work them in. We take everything. So I appreciate your offer of maybe publishing some of our information in the Montecito Journal. I would love to get more feedback, and I'd love to get the communication flowing. I really do value the input of people.
Yeah, I warn you, Michael, she likes to get people to write for free. So if she gives you a column, make sure you get it.
Thank you, Jerry. I like to hear my
Thank
own
you,
voice.
Jerry. I love the snark addition to our, anyway, so Jerry, I'm changing my next question because this went
You're
to
up.
Lenny before, but Elke, this starts with you. But I am gonna open with commenting, Michael, on what all of you said, really. As a school board, you're always going to be accused of not being transparent enough, which doesn't mean that you should try to be as transparent as possible, that you shouldn't try to be, because of course we should. And people are always going to feel like you didn't reach out to them enough, which is why we decided at Montecito Union to always do office hours, even when no one came, because I think it's important to be able to say, we are there every week, you are not, if that's the case. So just a bit of unsolicited advice for whatever it's worth, which may be nothing. Okay, Elke. What
Actually, I
do you
think Michael's
think-
first on this question. If I'm-
is he? I don't think so, because Jennifer
Okay,
was
you-
last.
You go ahead.
It may be, it got a little mixed up, but I hope you're all okay with us. Just okay.
It's fine.
This is a two-part question, which is a little incongruous, but number one, what do you think is a healthy reserve for a basic aid school district to maintain? And then the part two of that question is, there was a lot of controversy, as you know, surrounding Mr. Calderon and his possible conflict of interest at the district and all of that. Do you feel that's a real problem, or do you think that's something that was manufactured? So I know those are a little bit separate, but while he does oversee some of that. So I'm just, let's start with Elke.
Okay, I'm not currently on the board, so my numbers are going to be a little looser than everybody else's, but I believe, and Mike and Jen, please correct me if I'm wrong, that it's currently about a 20% reserve. Is that right? The school has? I see
More.
no corrections. I'm gonna go more
It's more.
than a 20% reserve. So
And so the budget, what's the yearly budget for the Cold Springs district?
I don't have the numbers off on the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me.
Michael, what is
About
it?
5 million.
5
Our
million.
revenue is
So,
about 5 million.
so about $1 million reserve you think is healthy? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
that's what they
That's the
currently
question.
have. I do
Right.
think that number is pretty healthy. I sit in on the Santa Barbara Ed Foundation. I know the Santa Barbara superintendent for the Santa Barbara Unified District talks about their reserve as well. I think Cold Springs reserve is clearly far healthier than it used to be. But it's a reserve. It's something that they don't want to have to dip into unless they need to, but it is there for necessities. So I don't think that it needs to be significantly higher, but I also would not feel comfortable with that number being significantly lower. There comes a threshold where the state starts to take over. Okay, I'll jump to the next question. I saw Jerry's hand again.
Sorry, Jerry, if we can give them another few seconds, because I did ask two completely different questions in all fairness in one. Go ahead.
Thank you. With regards to the CBO, I was not on the board when all of those, and I wasn't in the meeting when all of those issues were brought up, but I am familiar with what those allegations have been. I find them unfounded. I know the board did a lot of digging and research, and when they hired him, did their due diligence to see if there were any issues, any conflicts of interest. They found none. Sitting in on the board meetings, I have a lot of confidence in the board and the decisions that they've made. So if they feel that Mr. Calderon was a good fit, then I have no reason to second guess that. From what I've seen in those meetings, he's phenomenal and finds money in every possible corner. He's like pennies under the couch cushion for the school, because it's pretty impressive how he's able to manage the budget. I don't personally have any issue with him. I've never had any interactions with him that gave me pause for concern.
Okay, great. Michael, you're the master on this one.
I wouldn't go that far, but as far as budget goes, statutorily, we're required to have 5%. We as a board voted and took a 25% reserve threshold. I think that's quite healthy. It allows us to have enough cash flow for the lean months. Remember, we get our money when the tax revenue comes in. So pay your taxes on time if you're going to, but in the times when we don't have as much cash on hand, we've always made sure to have a reserve healthy enough. So even with this new building project, that won't impact our reserves. Obviously, the reserves are there for a reason, you know, both for projects and just safety in case things don't work out. You know, we've had a number of of disasters over the past couple of years, and we've been fortunate to have those reserves. As for Mr. Calderon, I don't really want to comment on really the vicious false rumors that people have spread.
No, I'm just wondering if you feel comfortable, because it was so played out in the public. I
Yeah,
feel
you know,
to address that.
That whole thing took on a life of its own. I had to get off of Nextdoor because it was disgusting what people were saying. And I don't really want to get into the individuals who created fake law professors to write fake articles to accuse Mr. Calderon of crimes. And yet somehow he's the bad guy, and we're talking about him and not these other people. But let me be very clear. Yuri Calderon is one of the greatest employees our district has ever had. He is tremendous at his job. He's well liked. And the reality is, without him, it would be a major blow to our district. He is such an incredible worker. We're very fortunate to have him. And it's a shame that there are people out there that want to smear his good name for their purposes.
Well, I'm glad you had a chance to speak your mind on that and clear that up. Jennifer.
I'm in absolute agreement with Mike on this and Elke. I think we all agree that Yuri's amazing. He has changed our CBO department, and he's helped us with so many things throughout the years. He is the most honest, highest integrity. Sorry, the whole thing stopped.
Okay, well, I assume she will sign back on if she doesn't pop back on. So we'll come back to Jennifer to finish that question. Jerry, you want to go to your next question?
Yeah, we got time for about probably 1-2 more questions. And
Yeah.
then-
That's where we're at.
Okay, so I've completely lost the plot about. who's
Okay,
going
so
first.
Jerry,
I think it's
your
Michael.
next question is school safety, and it's
Oh, wait
Elke
a minute.
start.
Here's Jennifer. Pink.
Here
I
she
have-
is.
I have 2 Jennifers on this.
I love to hear it.
Sorry, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can't see
Yes.
on.
You can't see me.
Put your video on.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. Sorry, I had to switch to my cell phone because my computer decided to take a dive, and I don't know why. So now you get the handheld. But anyway, sorry, real fast. I agree. Yuri is amazing. We are so lucky to have him. He is full of integrity. He's honest. He is amazing and diligent in his job. And I am so grateful to have him as part of Cold Spring School, and I support him 100%.
Okay. Let's see. I think Michael's.
Well, let's see who was. Yes, you're correct. Michael is first.
Thanks. Michael, obviously there's no issue that's more important than school safety. What is the district doing on that front, and what more needs to be done?
I'm glad you mentioned school safety, because to be honest, people in this community want to pretend like something bad couldn't happen here. And I know that there's a lot of communities that felt that way before something bad did happen. In my top priority, it's actually why we wanted to build that building with the bond that failed, and what we're trying to do now with phase 1 of this project. We have to have better entry points for security. A new building where the office is moved from inside the middle of the campus to the front, so every single person who comes on campus is known, is key. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to build that building. Obviously, there's a balance between having a school that's beautiful and idyllic underneath the mountains and a prison. You don't want to put up barbed wire and high walls, but you do want to make a safe campus. So we're doing our best with what we have. We've installed new locks through the school, new crisis go systems, so that we can alert teachers and parents, have lockdowns or lockouts if necessary. But yeah, it is a concern. And it's really my motivating goal behind this new building is to start making sure that we can keep our campus safe for our children.
All right, thank you. Jennifer, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, this is something that we've been working on as a board for many years. We've created a very large document, a safety protocol for our school. It's been reviewed by our Santa Barbara Police Department, or Montecito Police, I guess, Sheriff's Association, because we're in a county, and our fire department, our local fire department. Mr. Marino actually had, Mike, who was it that you had come out? It was our
We had Homeland Security come
Department of
out.
Defense, Homeland Security come out and take a look at our campus and make recommendations. So it's definitely an area of focus. We redid all of our locks. So there's an automatic locking system now on all the doors. And we've also signed up with Crisis Go, and we run many drills with the Crisis Go so that we make sure that we have good communication. So we're trying our best with safety. It's one of our top priorities.
All right.
Elke?
Okay.
I have little to add. I appreciate that that the school has now implemented like a safe routes committee. They've worked with the Bucket Brigade to create better walking routes for the students because there's no sidewalks in our area. So to allow for safe commuting, really recommending parents not pick up on the walking routes. There's definitely room for improvement. I think given the age of the school and where it's situated and funding, it's a process and it's a slow process, but it's definitely a focal point for board and non-board members.
All right. Gwyn, do you want to go to closing statement now?
Well, can I ask one other quick question, Jerry, that I know is important to you as well, which is about literacy. I know that this is that the students at Cold Springs do very well for the most part. It's a great school, but literacy is a concern to all of us, and I think the changing programs, meaning versus phonics and Lucy Calkins' work and, all of that. Where do you come down on the best approach for teaching reading and writing? Jennifer, why don't you start?
My background is not as much in teaching, so I really do defer to the teachers on this. And
you approve the curriculum. You approve curriculum on this, and there's studies to show whether or not it's working. So what is your sense of what the district should do?
Well, I think our district's doing the right thing. I mean, our numbers are really well. When you look at the test scores for ELA, I think we're 92% are at or exceeding goals for language arts. I think a big help for us is our reading specialist. We do have a reading specialist that will help any child that's been identified as needing extra help. We do the Lucy Calkins, like you said, and I think we're currently reviewing, our curriculum right now. We're looking at the Amplified curriculum, I believe, for reading. I could be wrong on that. I feel like we just started talking about it.
Well, even Lucy Calkins has kind of rescinded her own former beliefs. So that's why the question. Elke,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like the teachers are the ones who are implementing it. So whatever is working is the right curriculum to choose. So I know the board often looks at the results or all the data that comes into the curriculum before making a decision to adopt a curriculum. They've also been pilot programs for a lot of different programming and tend to adopt those programs that work well. So I feel like as long as the curriculum is being looked at, all of the data is being looked at and really evaluated to see whether or not it's actually working for the students, that's going to be the best curriculum to adopt. I do think it really comes down also to the teachers and the ability to teach and deliver the content rather than just what the content says. So Cold Spring, yes, it does have high achievement. A lot of that is really amazing teachers who implement whatever curriculum is given to them and are able to teach it to those students. The reading specialists have a great deal of influence there. The library is helpful. I saw Jerry's hand, so I will move it over to Mike.
Actually, thank you, Elke. Jen, you were wrong. It wasn't 92%. It's actually 93%. And by the way, some of these numbers have not been released yet. We don't have to get into the political reasons why they haven't been. But once again, Cold Spring is the highest performing school in Santa Barbara. But when it comes to reading, I think the key is to find children a joy in reading. I really appreciate the investment the school has made into some of these online book systems that link to their star reading test scores so that they're giving children appropriate level books at their interests. We're not forcing kids to read one specific book. Certainly there's products like that, but it's designed to increase a lifelong love of learning. And I really appreciate that more than anything else.
We're gonna throw one final question at you. who started last, so we'll start with Elke this time. What do you think about teaching young students about gender differences? Elke.
You're going there. I think that it is excellent to teach children the facts. And I think that it is up to parents to explain any additional interpretation they want to make on that. I have no issue with the current curriculum that is being mandated within California. I think that it's very fact specific. And I think some of those facts and curriculum have been misconstrued to really push an agenda that's not what's happening. Children are curious. Children do need to know several facts. And at the end of the day, if the parents want to elaborate on that, they can, but they're not required to. I think the school does have an obligation to make sure that children are receiving the necessary information.
Thank you, Elke. Michael.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if I'm educated well enough to render a very specific opinion. I can tell you my opinion is I want to create a safe space for every child. I want everyone to be comfortable in their own skin. I hope my own children are comfortable in their own skin. And I want to keep continuing to offer an open and diverse classroom and school experience for everybody. So, I hope we're accomplishing that. But I don't know. That's really my goal.
Jennifer.
I agree with Elke and Mike on the importance of creating a safe space for children. And there's obviously, I haven't had this in my own home. I don't have any children that are, asking these specific questions, but I read about it. I have friends that have children that are asking specific questions. And so I feel like this is something that we're going to have to engage with going forward. And really, my position would always be to advocate for the best for the children that are having these questions, and like making sure it's a safe space, like Mike said, and really depending on the age range, right? Offering education to reach all students so that everyone feels comfortable in their own skin. But I'm not the person that's going to come up with the ideas on how to do that. I would like to listen to other people that have much more education in that to come to me and tell me like, this is what's going to really work.
Well, I think these questions are being answered at the school board level around the country. And I think one of the challenges, as you all know, is that we all want a safe space for our kid. We all want what's best for our kids, but we don't always all agree on what that looks like. So that's where it becomes complicated and interesting, but complicated. Okay, thank you very much for that. Do you, Jerry, want to offer a final?
No, why don't you each take a minute or so, and if you want to speak directly to voters, please feel free.
Okay. So why don't we go with Michael first?
Okay.
Sure. I'm very proud of my 4 years on the board, the last 2 as president. Prior to joining the board, like I said, the school was not in a great place. There was a lot of chaos. It was deficit spending. Since I've joined the board, we've been at or under budget all 4 years. We've increased our reserves over $1 million. We're using those reserves to help build a new classroom expansion project, which is needed because enrollment has climbed 25% in my 4 years. And the reason why it's climbed, the reason why property values are at an all-time high, is because Cold Spring School District is the highest performing school district in the state of California. I don't want to take credit for all of these things. Certainly, I am not the reason why the school is doing so well, though I do feel like I have the skills and the ability to help the people who do have the skills to make the school so great and make the great budget decisions, to give them the freedom to do what they want and the guidance to make sure that we are representing everybody. At the end of the day, I'm proud of my work. I feel like I've earned another term. And believe me, this is a volunteer position. It's not a stepping stone to some higher office. It's a pleasure for me to do this. And I really do hope that voters will continue to offer me the ability to represent them.
Well, we appreciate your service, even if it is a stepping stone. Jennifer.
Well, thank you. After 8 years being on the board and seeing some significant changes, being part of that 4 years with Mike And being 4 years before Mike was on the board as well, and being part of the changes of hiring a new superintendent and having some of the new projects that Amy's brought to our school. It's been really exciting. And I still have a passion for the outstanding education that Cold Spring School is offering our students. And I hope to continue to support the administration in the future for our new and exciting projects that we have coming down the line, like the new building, like our expanded culinary program, like the expanded TK program that's coming down. You know, I've been around for a lot of the growth. So if the voters have liked what they've seen with Cold Spring becoming the #1 school district in the state, I've been a part of that. I'd like to continue. I've been a part of some of the terrible things that we've had to adjust to, such as COVID, such as the debris flow. And I feel like we've handled it well, as heart-wrenching as it's been. Hopefully we'll never have to experience anything like that again. But I feel with the 8 years, I feel like I bring something to the table, and I'd like to continue with that support of the administration, staff, and teachers. And I hope that the voters would vote for me to be there for them.
Thank you, Jennifer. Elke?
Thank you. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of supporting the school, the teachers, the students, community over all of the many challenges that Jen just mentioned. I served as an officer on the LCAP advisory committee. I was on the CSS Foundation. I volunteered in the classroom. I regularly attend board meetings. At the end of the day, I'm involved because I care. I care about the students, and I care about the overall experience that those students have at Cold Spring. I care a lot about the hardworking, incredible teachers there and the staff that we're so fortunate to have. And I really care about this community. So I think it's important to have a board that includes people who can work in collaboration to solve issues that come up, and to take the time to understand what those problems are and then ask those questions. And at the end of the day, who keeps students in the main focus. I'd be proud to serve as that board member, and I really hope that voters vote for me this November.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Elke Kane, Michael Marino, and Jennifer Miller for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you all for watching. Gwyn, thank you for your contributions as always, and for this collaboration with Newsmakers. And we will see you next time on Newsmakers, and don't forget to vote.